to another episode of the Threefold Collective. I'm Jay Cruz.
And I'm Julie Cruz.
And today we are going to be talking about, Julie had a question from one of your friends, and she said, how do you guys cultivate your relationship? Was that the question, or how did she ask it?
I don't remember, but that sounds right.
You don't remember exactly, or you remember the question being asked, though?
We asked this question a long time ago. So, I think they said, how do you cultivate your relationship? Meaning, how do you keep your relationship a priority? Is how I took it. Like, how do you keep your relationship priority? And how do you, keep it alive? That's how I felt.
Yeah. The funny thing is this person also said, but you've always had opportunity, or you've always been cultivating your relationship. And I thought that was the strangest comment after the question.
Yeah. Because it automatically assumes that that's what we've been like our whole marriage.
Well, not that. I the reason why it's the strangest question to me is because I feel like from the moment that you start dating, you should be cultivating your relationship.
Yeah, you should be.
That should be your goal. Your goal should be to get better.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't matter what it is, whether it is your business, fitness, relationships, those things, you should always want it to get better. The moment you say, okay, we're cool, I'm just going to be satisfied where I'm at, there's no such thing as arriving, or there's no such thing as, okay, this is where I want to be, and I'm just going to stay steady right here.
Yeah.
There's only going forward or going backwards.
Mm-hmm.
And the moment you say, okay, I'm going to stay here, you're going backwards because either someone or something is surpassing whatever you're doing.
Yeah, just the same as in business. If you say, oh, I'm good, I don't need to try and work on anything, I'm just going to coast, everything's going to be good, your business is going to fail because you haven't kept the fire burning.
Yeah, what would you, coasting is called becoming complacent.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like the same way as water. Like if you have water, like if you're going to go swimming in a body of water, you don't want the pond that's just been sitting there and there's no flow.
Yeah, gross.
And all it does is sit there, and then what grows? Like there's algae and all this other just crap that grows. And it's the same thing in your relationship, business, anything like that. If it doesn't keep moving, if you don't keep it flowing, some sort of positive flow into it, that the nasty gunk just gets built up.
So what do you think we do to make our relationship strong and not get stuck?
I know what I know one of the things that I do is I stay away from comparisons.
Yeah.
Comparisons is like the worst thing for you to say, like, man, like I feel like I'm doing better than them, so there's nothing for me to improve.
Or like saying, I know I'm not doing great, but at least I'm doing better than them.
Yeah.
That happens a lot to people.
Yeah. And then there's the converse of that, which would be like, oh, I'm not doing as good as them. Mm-hmm. Like, oh, my marriage is failing.
Yeah.
So one of the things is you just have to stay away from the comparison game, because you will either, you lose either way, because you're going to say, oh, I'm doing better, so I'm not going to work on it, or I'm doing worse, so I'm not going to work on it. Like I can never be as good as that.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to try, or I'm doing better than that, so I'm not going to do anything to improve.
Yeah. And I think for our relationship, there were plenty of times where we were going through so much, maybe fighting on our way to church, and then we're at church and we're like, totally fine. And I think we gave off the persona that we had a perfect marriage and we had a great marriage, and nobody knew the wiser until we actually, said, hey, no, we're not. I think that is very common though in relationships, that you don't want anyone else to think that you're maybe not doing it. And then out of the blue, people are like, we're getting a divorce. And you're like, what happened? I thought you guys had the greatest relationship ever. So I think that's kind of hard.
But not just that though. Like when someone comes out of the blue and says they're getting a divorce, it's almost like, okay, when you invite people to your wedding, it's not so that they can just enjoy a good meal and dance and have a fun time. The purpose of you inviting people to your wedding is so that they can help keep you accountable and help you along your marriage. So like if you're struggling, especially your best man and your maid of honor, or whoever it is that's there, they're supposed to be there to like help you along, like guide you, and like those are the people you should be able to confide in and say like, hey, I'm struggling. So anybody out there that's like, oh, this is the person I want to be my best man and all that kind of stuff, really think about that,
Yeah.
because that is somebody that should be there for life for you.
Mm-hmm.
But let's like, we've kind of gone on a
I know.
tangent.
We have.
But to go back and say what we've been doing, again, like I said, stay from the comparison game, because the comparison game it will trick you.
Mm-hmm. Practically, though, I feel like we've done some things practically.
Yeah. One of the things I remember someone telling me is to continue to date your spouse.
Mm-hmm.
Like the moment that you get married and there's still like, there's the honeymoon period.
Mm-hmm.
There's a time when you stop
Pursuing. Well, and I think for us, okay, we got married. I was 21. You were 22. We had our first child at 23. Jumped right in. And I remember when people would tell me, because everybody always gives that advice. It's like, date your spouse, go on dates. But when you have really, really young children, that's so hard to do. And so for us, yes, now we've come to a place where our kids are in school and we can set aside Fridays to be a date day. But we didn't always do that. So how did we cultivate the relationship when our kids were young? Do you remember?
I wouldn't say we were as intentional as we are today.
Yeah.
It just was like, if it happens, it happens. When we were first married, I remember before I would go to work, I would pray with you every morning.
Yeah.
And then at some point that stopped,
Mm-hmm.
and we still went to church together. But like, there's those little things like, okay, so first of all, involving prayer into your life,
Mm-hmm.
and making sure that God is first.
Yeah.
I don't want to just brush that off and say obviously, but yes, that should be a cornerstone and a keystone to what you do. But then all the things that attracted you to me or me to you, or vice versa, you got to keep doing those things.
Yeah.
Like, I always laugh because it gets harder and harder to make you laugh these days. But when I do, like, I'm like, oh yes, I love it, because that feeling of being able to make you laugh is like, I love that.
And you always did, even if you're cheesy, like you're cheesy making me laugh.
Yeah, my like one-liners. I remember we were with our friends at a restaurant. I forget what it was. It was a fast food restaurant, and there was a menu up, and somebody's like, Jay, or no, you asked me, hey, what do you want to eat? Or no, what do you feel like? Or something to that, something. It definitely wasn't what do you want to eat.
Yeah.
It was like, hey, do you see anything you like? Oh, that's what it was.
Yeah.
Hey, do you see anything you like on the menu? And I was like, I don't see you up there. So no, like, that was the kind of cheesy one-liner.
Yeah, he was good
Garbage
at
that I did like all the time. My glasses are like fogging up right now. Keep talking.
Oh, you're too hot over there.
Oh gosh.
That was like a perfect placement for a one-liner.
Yeah, see, there you go.
Yeah, I think when our kids were little, it was more of you having to be in. Okay, I remember when our kids were little, because we had 4 kids within 4 years. You would come home even after working tons of hours, and you would say, "How can I help?" Or you would take the baby, or you would, let me have some rest. And for me, that was like the best, like intentional behavior of trying to pursue me, even if it meant I was going to go take a nap. It meant like you were showing up and helping me without me having to ask. So I think for like even small things like that, I mean, it's a big thing, but like small things like that can make a big difference in being intentional in a marriage. And we would have date nights at home because there was nobody. We lived we lived for a while in Georgia, and we didn't have people. I mean, we had people, but we didn't have family that could watch our kids a lot. And so we didn't go on dates that often. And so we had to make things work at home and play a game or.
Oh, we played sequence like nobody's business.
Yeah, we did.
I don't know why. That game was horrible with one-on-one, but we played it all the time. Yeah. I think the point that you're making is just finding whatever the person's need is. And that changes throughout life. Like the need becomes different. Like right now, your need is someone just to help support you in your business and to come alongside you. So like, I mean, that's the whole point of a marriage in the first place. Totally. Is for that person to come alongside and be a helper, to be a helpmate. Like that's the whole purpose. And so
to notice.
Yeah, to notice things. And that's the problem. So your fire, for whoever it is, will transition depending on who notices you.
Yeah.
And that's a scary thing. And so that's why you have to continue to notice your spouse, and like, so that they know, oh, they're still noticing me, and I can get attention from them instead of from somebody outside of that marriage.
Yeah. And you hear the phrase like, oh, we're growing apart. And that I understand what people say when they're growing apart. Like, of course we're supposed to be growing every single day. We're growing. But I think that these small behaviors that make us be intentional about each other and thinking about like how you're going to receive the love and how I'm going to receive love and how they may be different and how they may change from one year to the next. I think that's how you can continue to be intentional and to, instead of grow apart, grow closer together as you're trying to get closer to God.
Yeah, there should definitely be some sort of growth, because for either one of us to expect that the other person is going to stay exactly the same throughout the whole marriage, that, first of all, that's super unrealistic, because as you age, things change, period. You're,
you don't even look the same.
but
I mean,
I look almost the same.
you do.
Except for
I
my
don't.
hair.
I don't feel like I do. But I was 21 when we got married. So of course you're going to look different. You're going to, things are going to change.
Yeah. And even like when Julie and I first got married, and we watched movies, all I watched was romance, comedy type romantic comedies, basically, and romance movies, because that's all that she liked. And I'm like, on my own time, I'm over here watching like action movies, Jackie Chan, this and whatever else. And I was like, man, if she would just watch one of my movies, I'd be happy. But I just did whatever she enjoyed. But I still I still had my own time, because we had different work schedules. So I still watched my own movies. But like, I was intentional about watching what she wanted to watch so that I could be with her. Now, today, it might have taken a while, but she will watch every last whatever it is with me. So that part of her changed. And it wasn't like I had to force her to do it. But there's a little bit
I had to admit that sometimes the movies were pretty good. So now I'm like, okay, let's go.
Wait, which ones? The romance ones?
No, I mean the movies that you like.
Oh, yeah, duh. See, here's the thing, though. The romance ones, they're all almost exactly the same. It's like Hallmark movies.
I know, I love them.
You know what's going to happen. Well, our big thing was, I don't want to plug somebody, but we watched every last Jennifer Lopez movie.
Dude, for real. We even had, for our wedding, oh
gosh.
So what was that movie called?
The Wedding Planner.
The Wedding Planner. They had like the theme song from The Wedding Planner, and we used that in our wedding.
It was our first dance? Or the father-daughter dance?
Maybe it was the father-daughter dance, but then I walked down the aisle to the theme song.
No, you didn't.
the piano part.
Did you?
Totally.
Oh, I have to go.
But it was a good song. That was a good movie.
I mean, it was
kind of ages us.
Yeah.
Because that was a while back.
Yeah.
I mean, we got married before they had digital cameras. They were all negatives, and you had like wind up. Yeah, we're kind of.
No,
old.
we got married before flip phones. How about that?
So weird.
Before you could even take pictures with your phone.
That's true. And you know what? It was cool, because now if you go to a wedding, everyone has their phones up as the bride or whoever's coming down, and then.
But there's so many more memories now.
It's true, I guess.
It's a give and take. Anyways, so what are some
tangent?
Yeah,
just a little extra information for you guys.
That works. What are other things you feel like we did to be intentional to cultivate our? I'll tell you something recently.
Mm-hmm.
So, one of the things for me, I'm just someone that always wants to try and get better. So like, fitness wise, like there hasn't been a moment where Julie has known me where I didn't want to work out, or I wasn't like changing what I was doing and changing how I worked out because I wanted to get better. But I took the same approach to like our marriage. There was times where I would mess up, and it wasn't like I wasn't leading well, but like I always wanted to do better. And initially when we first got married, man, I would always look at her and look at her faults and the things that she could improve. But at some point a switch happened. I said, you know what? I can't change her. I can't be her. I can't do all these other things. So let me just make myself better. And by making myself better, we can make the marriage better. Like, you can't control the other person. You're just gonna get frustrated.
Yeah.
So I just concentrated on me and what I could,
Yeah. And
improve.
For me, I feel like, I spent a long time trying to work on myself personally, like my personal development, because I was someone years ago that always saw the negative in every single situation, in you and everything around me. And so that was like what I was permeating, projecting all the time is negativity. And I wasn't happy, and I was like, everything wasn't right. And so I think I was probably hard to live with for a while there. And what I tell people in my business all the time is that you're never going to get better at something unless you tell yourself that you are going to be. Like, you have to believe that you're going to be better before you can get there. And that is something I have to remind myself of a lot. But it took a lot of years of doing personal development and trying to retrain my brain to not see negative all the time.
Yeah.
And people see me now and they're like, you're always so positive. You're always so, it's like, well, first of all, I'm not, but Jay knows the truth. But also it's taken a lot of years for me to try and retrain my brain to turn it around. You know, even with us, like, we've worked so hard on our marriage and we hardly ever fight. But then sometimes when we do fight, I'm like, oh, you know, I go back into the negative thinking.
Oh, like what?
I mean, we haven't in a long time, so I don't really have an example, but I don't know. It's like I think you still, for me anyway, it still like I still have to retrain myself.
I don't know. Like, they're so far between. Like, I think one of the things that we've always centered back to is when we are going to get into a fight or we're in a fight, you just have to stop and pause for a second and like remember, okay, wait a second. Okay, this person loves me.
Mm-hmm. We're on the same team.
I love them.
Mm-hmm.
We're on the same team. This is just a hallmark misunderstanding.
Yeah, totally.
And in the end, we love each other. So let's try and figure this out. And I think our quote is, you got to fight for your marriage, not in your marriage. Mm-hmm. And that helps it a ton.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, it's true. It's true. We've had plenty of, someone told us when we first got married, don't ever go to bed in a different room, or don't ever.
Yeah, that didn't happen.
I know. And so I would always be like, no, but I've learned over the years, like, what works for us, but we still try not to, actually.
Yeah. For me, like, I need, when we're in an argument, or when we used to be in like a really big argument, like, I just needed space, and I would go to the couch, not intending to really like sleep there. Like, I just needed to like chill, and she wouldn't give me 30 seconds out there. And like, she'd be right there, like, oh, we need to talk this out. And I'm like, I just can't do this right now. Like,
yeah.
It's just not going to happen. And that pursuit just made me more angry and more resistant. And I think over the time we both learned, so you don't pursue me as hard, and I don't pull back so hard.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean.
Oh, okay. So going.
Yeah, we were like going on a way back, big tangent.
Going way back to other things that we've done is me just spending my time with God. Like, Julie and I's relationship with God has changed today, or this year. No, sorry, not this year. 2019 it did.
Yeah.
To where we started doing our devotionals with God. With that, well, okay, let me explain that. So we would read our Bible and pray together in the mornings, which we'd never done for 16 years of marriage.
Yep.
Our 16th year of marriage.
Mm-hmm. I always wanted to, but that's not what you liked to do. I always wanted to do them together, or go through a book together, or do something like that. And like, that's not how I do. Well, let
me explain that.
Okay,
what I was trying to do is say that I have my own relationship with God, and you have your own relationship with God. I don't want to be responsible for yours, and I don't want you to replace your quiet time with our quiet time with God. So that was the only reason why I did that. But now it's like, hey, you are still responsible for your own time.
Totally.
But I get to lead you in, a short time.
And it does.
Well.
I feel like if you're really talking about like going back to the basis of that question, how do you cultivate your relationship? That is how we have gotten closer.
Oh yeah.
And it's I guess permeated is the word of the day, but it's come to our kids. Like, so then now they're seeing us, and they're seeing us making that a priority in the mornings, and then they're wanting to do it too. So it really has transformed not just our relationship and helped us be intentional with our time together, but also for our kids.
Yeah, I sent this picture to Julie yesterday, 2 days ago, and I came out to do mine, and I was sitting on the couch, and Corbin, he comes out and sits next to me. He grabs his Bible, he reads it, and then I have a picture of him praying. And like, I didn't say, hey, this is what you need to do that morning. He just came out, saw me doing it, so then he did the same thing. So for the men out there, leading by example is like a huge thing. And it's like, so far, leading your own life, then leading your wife and your kids. Well, not necessarily, it's not going to be automatic, but you have to at least model it if that's what your expectation is.
Yeah. It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
And then recently, you started having Fridays off, and I decided it was a hard thing for me because of my business, the way my business works, I can work whenever I want. And because I love it, I want to work all the time. And so we had to have a conversation, and I said, well, I think I should be taking off Fridays so that we can spend more time together. And at first it was kind of hard to let it go. And then finally it got to a point where everybody knew I was taking off Fridays. Everybody's like, why are you checking in? If I did check in, and then we got to actually spend time. And some days that would look like taking a nap. And sometimes it would be going to the movies. But I've come to look forward to it because it's just one day that we have just for each other, which I think is really special. So that's been like a big way for us to cultivate. I realized that the masses may not have that kind of time to be able to put it together. But I think if you're being intentional with a Friday night or being intentional with one night a week, where even if you're ordering pizza in and you're having a game night with your family or with your spouse, then at least that is cultivating your relationship still.
Yeah, you have to definitely be intentional about it. You got to steal that time. I mean, when you were first dating whoever it is, man, you probably go out of your way to be with them. You would cut prior engagements out. You would schedule it. And for anybody that says they don't have time, like, check yourself real quick. How much time do you watch Netflix?
Or the football game.
Or a football game. Or like, I think that's one thing that's helped us is that I don't really watch sports, and it's not my life.
I know.
But like think about all the other things that you do, and then say, okay, would I, if in a dating situation, would I sacrifice this to be with her or him? And if your answer is yes, then you should be sacrificing that thing.
You can't stop sacrificing that thing. That's what we're talking about. Like stopping those things that made you fall in love with each other.
Yeah.
Because now it's been 20 years, or for us 16 years. Like obviously our likes and things may change, but still trying to figure out what each other likes is important.
Yeah.
I think we're doing a good job about that.
Yeah. And like, man, I try my best to be like, actually, no, Julie, I think Julie models this for me better than I do for her, but she serves me. She will make sure that I eat. And now I'm doing that for her a lot. She would make me coffee, and now I do that all the time for her. So like just serving the other person is like a huge deal, because then they know that you care about them, that you're thinking about them. And also one of the things that we did was actually did the like love languages test to try to figure out how the other person receives love. And just because you don't receive it that way, you have to learn how to give it. Two things. You have to learn how to give it the way that person would receive it, but then you also have to learn how to receive it the way that person gives it, and identify that as, oh, they are trying to love me right now.
Yeah.
Instead of just saying, oh, no, that's not the way that I do it, so that's not good enough.
I mean, still trying, like, our love languages are not the same. And so it's been challenging sometimes where I'm like I have to go out of my way to make sure that I'm loving you the way that you feel loved. And
man, you go out of your way.
I mean, not out of my, I don't mean it like as a chore or anything like that. I just mean like, I have to, sometimes I have to think about it. Like, oh,
intentional. Let's use the word. You're intentional.
Intentional is my word for 2020. And I feel like I need to use it all the time.
Yeah. Be more
So I
intentional.
have to be intentional
about
with
using
my
the word
time.
intentional.
Okay, I'll be intentional.
Okay.
But I have to be intentional
Mm-hmm.
in showing you that I love you the way that you feel it. Yeah.
Yeah.
And mine is different than yours. So it's like is it harder for you?
No, because I think that mine, yours, it's kind of easy because like, so whatever I want is usually what actually you want. Like the things that, so like words of affirmation, that's so easy for me to do that for you.
Mm-hmm.
And then gift giving, that's even easier because all I have to do is make sure that there's a smiling package at our front door every now and then, and you're happy. So like,
I think that your love language has totally been gifts lately.
see, so it's become easier for you
Oh my
because
God.
that's yours.
No, I think, is it mine? You think gifts is one of my
Yours,
tops?
words, affirmation, acts of service, and then gifts.
Okay.
Gift giving.
It is.
Yeah.
I think words of affirmation, and that is true for me. I think that's probably why I am so big on recognition on my team, because for me, words of affirmation go such a long way. And so I automatically assume that everyone else is like that too. But I was thinking recently that I should probably do like some sort of love languages test in my team, because not everyone maybe does learn or love that way. But I think everyone loves a little recognition when they do something well, and you should be able to freely give that to people. Like, it doesn't take from you to say, good job,
Yeah. It's actually one of the easiest ones to do.
Yeah.
But there's a fine line between just doing it and then being making sure that you find a genuine thing to affirm them on. Because if you just throw like obligatory, like
Compliments,
random compliments, especially when that's not true. Like if someone's singing and they're horrible and you say, man, you have a great voice.
good job.
Guess what? You're going to hear that horrible singing forever.
Totally.
So you want to encourage something that you think that they should repeat. Don't encourage something that they are horrible
do
at.
I need to be thinking about this for me? Since this is my love language, like, how many times have you said this to me? I'm just kidding.
Said what? Like me to you?
Yeah. No, I think
Wow,
that you've only, I know.
Don't read into
I
that.
know. I think you really do have come a long way in your words of affirmation for me, because I, for a long time, didn't feel like I heard that I was doing a good job from you for a long time when we were having problems.
I think going back to it, bottom line, it goes back to having a more positive outlook on your
Totally.
life and finding the positive in what's going on. Because if you could have the perfect life, you could be rich, you could have everything and have a negative attitude and it's done. Like everything you have
Doesn't
means
matter.
nothing.
Yeah.
Or you can have a positive attitude and have nothing and have an amazing life.
Yeah.
That's what it
Because
comes
you're surrounded by people you love. I mean, for me, that's how I feel.
to. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's actually all we have time for because the recording is going to end.
Oh,
So
I think we did good.
yeah. So thank you again for joining us next week. We actually have a little game. We're going to play a little game next week
Oh,
and we'll see how that turns out.
it'll be fun.
Yeah, definitely. Okay.
All right. Bye, friends.
See ya.